But we promised you all that we would start at 8:30, so we're going to be prompt. I'm Darrell Issa, and I'm here, as the sign might indicate, a little sneak preview. I'm here to announce that in the weeks leading up to this, our exploratory committee has received more than 2,400, not just letters asking us to run, but checks, averaging over $82 a piece. And in politics, when thousands of people respond to, I'm looking at this, I'm exploring it, you pay attention. And so today I'm announcing that I will be the next congressman from the 50th Congressional District. I'm dedicated to do that because I believe that I have the history, the skills, the seniority, and the capability to hit the ground running, not just for this district, but for California, to help Republicans compete in what has become a very treacherous and difficult Congress, and to retake the majority. I'm surrounded today by some of the people that I've had the honor of speaking to over the last few weeks, or in the case of Supervisor Jacob, for many, many years. And I've asked each of them if they'll give you their thoughts today on why they're here to support me. And with that, I'd like to introduce the county supervisor standing in her district, and my friend Diane Jacob.
Thank you, Darrell, and I can't tell you how excited I am to be here today to support Darrell Issa for Congress. There is, as we know, a significant amount of turbulence that's going on in Washington, D.C., and unfortunately I think it's going to get worse rather than getting better. And we cannot afford to get this election wrong. Darrell is battle-tested. He has proven leadership that we desperately need in Washington, D.C. And he has seniority. That is very important. Seniority will help us get what we need in East County, and he will hit the ground running. That's one thing that makes him different from any other candidate. The election, as far as I'm concerned, can't come soon enough, and I have total confidence that Darrell will represent this district well. Think about this. East County problems are America's problems. Illegal immigration, the illegal traffic, human traffic, drugs coming across our border, homelessness, mental health issues, housing issues. He will be there to fight for us. On a personal note, whenever East County has needed help over the years, and I've been in this position for a few, whenever I've called Darrell for help, he's always been there to help. And he not only has listened, but he has followed through, and he's done the best that he could do to help us out here in East County. And he doesn't just listen. He has actually advocated on our behalf. And I truly believe that he will have our back when he wins this election. And that can't come soon enough. So Darrell, I'm very proud to support you in this, and I would ask all to join me in this effort. It's extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. And now it's an honor, the man who has already been out there talking about this district and the need for representation, the mayor of El Cajon, and a man that I respect very much as a solid conservative, Bill Wells.
Welcome to the city of El Cajon. I'm really glad you're here today. This is an important day. It's really an important day for me. I've spent the last year and a half of my life running for Congress. And the reason I got involved in the congressional race in the first place was because I thought it was very important that the 50th Congressional District continue to be led by a conservative Republican. I think that at the time that I got involved, it seemed like I was doing something that was good for the district, and I wasn't sure anybody else was going to step up and do it. This year, it's a little bit different. And with Darrell Issa getting involved in the race, I feel confident that the right man is here to lead us into the future. And I feel safe and confident in taking back my promise to run for the 50th district. I'm going to drop out of the race and support Darrell Issa fully. Darrell Issa is a man of respect. Darrell Issa is an iconic conservative. Darrell Issa believes in the things that I think most people in the 50th District believe in. They believe in personal freedom. They believe in a limited government. They believe in personal responsibility. They believe in lower taxes. They believe in keeping the border safe. And on top of all those things, I also have had conversations with Darrell about things that are close to my heart. As the mayor of the city of El Cajon and as a psychologist, I worry about things like homelessness. I worry about things like our refugee community. And Congressman Issa has been very interested in what I've had to say, and he's made promises to me that he will do everything he can as a congressman to work with myself and the other mayors of the district to combat homelessness and to combat the scourge of mental illness that has now become a national problem. It's because of these things and many, many more things that I confidently say I am going to vote for Darrell Issa. And I hope that everybody else in the 50th District will vote for Darrell Issa. And I look forward to a much brighter future in Washington. Thank you very much.
Now, you never argue with people that are supporting you in such a wonderful way, but our next person, Mayor Sam Abed, is probably going to mention that this district also includes North County, San Diego, and South County, Riverside. So I'll just say that in fact it's been an honor over the years to work with Sam and to work with people in North County and in Riverside, because a third of this district, a third of the area of this district was mine for most of my time in Congress. And during that time I grew to know Sam Abed very, very well as a leader. And Bill, when you said iconic, I now give you Mayor Sam Abed.
Thank you. Thank you, Darrell, and good morning. And thank you, Bill, for hosting this great event in the great city of El Cajon. This is a city that is thriving under the leadership of my good friend, Bill Wells. The 50th District is a large district representing 750,000 residents, and also it includes North County, as Congressman Issa said. It's a strong conservative district, and also it has a history of electing conservative Congress in the past. We have an unprecedented coalition of candidates here dropping out of the race to support the best candidate that can win the 50th District against Campa Najjar. In 2016, it was close. We were close by 3.6 points to lose that district. Our common goal is very simple, is to keep the 50th District in the Republican hands. I've known Darrell for 15 years. He's a man of integrity. He loves America. He is passionate about serving our 50th District. He has the perfect conservative credential. He served honorably for 18 years, fighting government corruption and also championing transparent government. He has a great list of accomplishments, and as Diane said, he's a tested leader. Darrell will focus on the 50th District. The 50th District will be his priority, the only priority. The 50th District will be his agenda, the only agenda. And he will get a critical committee assignment because of his seniority, and that will best serve the 50th District. Congressman Issa represents our values, the 50th District values. Today, I'm suspending my campaign for 2020, and I will proudly endorse and campaign for Congressman Issa. Escondido was the ground zero in 2016, and Escondido will be the ground zero for victory in 2020. Thank you.
Just to let you know, not everybody running in this race was an elected official. And my next friend is somebody that, to be honest, Larry and I didn't know each other that well. But we have a lot in common. What we have in common is a love for our country, years of service. And so when we first met, I wasn't planning, I wasn't really thinking that Larry would come on board as a supporter and drop out of his own race. But as we talked about our goals, we talked about the need for national defense and, in fact, to remember those when they come home. This Navy SEAL began to be, in my opinion, the ideal campaign manager, which my campaign manager in the back is going to worry about. But since I've met him and begun working with him as we explored, I've felt that Larry is the kind of a person that I'll be very proud to take everywhere with me, because for all of us in San Diego, Riverside, and Orange County, we also know we're defined the men and women who serve in the Navy, the Marines, a few Army folks, a few Air Force folks, and a little bit of Coast Guard. But I give you Larry Wilski, ABC.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. One of the things that's very important in this district is we have the highest concentration of veterans, retirees, Department of Defense employees, and active duty military in the state of California. We have to have a veteran supporting us. It's plain and simple. And Mr. Issa's service is fantastic. 10 years active duty, 10 years in the reserves as well. Another 10 in the reserves. So he knows the needs of veterans, and as everybody knows, what happens to veterans on a negative side bleeds over into society. We need to stop problems right there. My campaign has been wonderful. It's been something that's a great experience. And right now, Sam, I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
We're not dropping out of this race. What we're doing is we're joining one team, one fight. So Sam's not dropping out, Bill's not dropping out, I'm not. What we're doing is we're unifying around leadership that has brought us together, and that's the kind of leadership that will bring our country together. We need this to happen. We need to happen as one team, one fight. Thank you very much.
Well said. Well said.
I think we have one more speaker, but the size of this district means that Matt, who's coming from Temecula, hit what we all hit. And I'm going to open this up for questions, but I'm going to make one short statement. For the 18 years that I served, one of the things that I worked on that was still unfinished business is the federal government ensuring that our interstate system, including the Interstate 15 and its connecting roads, the Interstate 5 and its connecting roads, operate properly, and it's an area of contention. So it's no surprise that to get from the north part of this district in Temecula down to here takes longer than it should, and that'll continue to be an effort. But with that, I would open up for questions, and where's my KUSI reporter? You were the first here. Do you have a question?
The presence of your challenger, Carl DeMaio over here, bad form?
Well, that's for the press and others to decide. We're not here to talk about any of the other candidates, not even at this point Campa Najjar, the Democrat. We're here to talk about one team, one goal for this district, and I think that's what I'm going to be campaigning on, is I have a record. I'm not going to be somebody that walks in and says I'm going to change Washington. No, I've been changing Washington for 18 years. And when I return, I will continue to do exactly the kinds of things I did that made me friends and enemies, made me people who would certainly oppose me, but also made me somebody that could get things done for San Diego County. And I will say one thing, and I think you're going to see this in the days to come. We were a good delegation with Republicans and Democrats able to get things done for San Diego and to bring it home. And the Chamber and others recognize that. I want to make sure that although we will fight hard in Washington for conservative values, I intend to continue to work with across the aisle to get things done when we can agree. And thank you.
You used the word treacherous to describe the current Congress. Is that hyperbole?
No, I think that this attempt to find a reason to impeach the president is unheard of and uncalled for. Historically, during my tenure and well before, you had actual events that then led to people saying, "Well, should we look into it?" And then impeachment became a question. Instead, we had the current chairman of Judiciary, a committee I served on, and it would be the senior member if I went back there. Judiciary, in fact, he, on a train, before he was sworn in, he was already talking about impeaching the president. This kind of activity is wrong, and I will stand up to it when I return, as I did when I was there. I'll hold presidents accountable for what they do wrong in administrations, and I have a proven track record on that with both parties. But I also know that you let a president lead and do his job, and you support that before you turn around and automatically try to undermine it. Something that I've seen going on, which really bothers me.
So Representative Hunter is also a long-time Republican in the House, and other than the indictment against him, what will you do to set yourself apart?
You know, Duncan Hunter Sr. was a mentor of mine and is a friend. And Duncan Hunter Jr., I hope I've been a mentor to him at times. He's been a friend and a colleague. His current situation is regrettable, and I know that we're here today because of questions about whether or not he could win this if he were the nominee. We're not here for anything different than that. And I have said for a long time, and I'll say it again here, he deserves his day in court, but the 50th Congressional District does deserve to have the ability to retain this as a conservative district, and quite frankly, to have a member who can show up and take all of his committee assignments. Yes, sir.
So should he drop out, in your opinion?
You know, I long ago figured out that hopefully I didn't tell anyone here to drop out. You know, telling people to drop out rather than letting them decide what's in the best interest of themselves and their families, I think is the right thing to do. We've all benefited by Duncan Hunter Sr. and Duncan Hunter Jr. fighting hard for our men and women in uniform, serving on the Armed Services Committee, working hard to do things for San Diego. There is a regrettable situation, and I've got to be honest. I served during the time in which Duke Cunningham was our congressman, and I was side by side with him. These are very unfortunate situations. Unfortunate, but just as I would have said with Duke, and I'll say it with Duncan, he deserves his day in court. I expect everyone to presume he's innocent until proven guilty, but we are here because we believe that we need a single candidate who can, in fact, assure that this conservative district stays in conservative hands.
Did you speak with his father or himself before deciding to run?
I have. I was with Duncan Sr. not too long ago for an extended period of time, and I think there are even pictures of us standing together. I will tell you that I spoke to both Duncan Hunter Sr. and Duncan Hunter Jr. yesterday. Those conversations are private. I wish them both well. They are both people that I have a long history with and that I've worked with, and we've done legislation together. We've been supportive. And this campaign will not be about the other guy. This will be a referendum on am I the right person to come back and serve for a number of terms again in the United States Congress.
Congressman, could you just comment on what your thoughts were on the content of the call between the president and the Ukrainian president, whether you thought his comments were appropriate, and whether you have any concerns about what's in the whistleblower complaint?
You know, I've only browsed when it came up, you know, as content online, and I read through it, and I have to tell you that it's the chief law enforcement officer of the United States is the President of the United States. And I do find it interesting, as a Republican, that immediately this was somehow supposed to be bad even before we saw the content. Now that I've seen the content, quite frankly, a discussion about an individual and asking for an investigation, doesn't that sound pretty familiar? Didn't we have a secret investigation and wiretap of the president when he was a candidate? And wasn't that in some cases arranged with the government? So I think the fact that he simply said, make sure we have the facts, doesn't, to me personally, doesn't bother me. But I will read the thing more thoroughly, but I did browse it over knowing that might be a question this morning. Yes, sir.
Congressman, well, wouldn't the difference be that he was engaging a foreign government to help him in the race? I mean, would you want to address that?
Well, I don't think for a moment asking a question about whether somebody broke the law is in fact engaging in anything related to the campaign. I think people have to remember one thing, and I'll say it here today, and I'll stand by it. You have two jobs when you're a elected official. One of them is about politics and elections, and you can't divorce yourself. But you also have your basic duty. the basic duty of whether or not there is foreign corruption, and I'll comment specifically on this one. We give a lot of money, and I've been very active in giving money, foreign aid, to countries all over the world. And one of the things we ask them to do is to stop corruption. And one of the things they often fail to do, Ukraine being no exception, is to stop corruption. So whether it's $400 million to Ukraine or it's $500 million to Nigeria, stopping the corruption there of all sorts is critical.
I know
Other questions?
I know you don't have to live in a district to run, but have you moved to the 50th district? Or?
You know, I have a voter in the district. I have a house in the district that I've owned for 15 years. And I want you to know that I have my mother's full support from that house in Bombsville. And I'm glad you asked that question because my mom will not be coming on camera. She has chosen not to for years. But one of the things that people forget is that a third of this district I represented for all those years. My mother and her late husband were able to vote for me until redistricting. My good friend and I, she rode, I walked in Julian's parades for all those years. And so whether it was going up to Julian, going to Valley Center, or going all the way, to be honest, well beyond this address, I used to have to go to Lake Elsinore in Paris during my tenure. Members of Congress are elected to uphold and defend the Constitution. They go back as a state delegation. And when we do so, we represent much more than geographic lines. And so, yes, I have represented a third of the geographic lines of this current district, but I've also represented, and I think Supervisor Jacobs said this very well, I've represented San Diego, Orange, and Riverside County in the state of California for 18 years. And if you don't think of it that way, you get into trouble. And I'll give you even one more. Not to belabor the point, I'm not a senator, just a House candidate. When you go there, often you're representing the best interest of people who have had a hurricane damage in Florida or floods along the Mississippi. When you send somebody to Congress, you send them to think about bigger than your backyard. I've got mayors behind me and a county supervisor, and they do a great job of that, and we'll bring support from Washington where appropriate. But quite frankly, I have had the honor of being in those parades along this route, and I've been down to visit with Cajon, and I've been in these areas because that's what you do. And every time there was a fire, whether it was in East County, North County, or up all the way in San Bernardino, the fact is we as congressmen show up. And so hopefully that's what people will be looking for, is somebody that's going to be bigger than just a line, which does include my mom. Other
Congressman,
yes,
you mentioned about keeping the district in conservative hands as one of the reasons why you're running. There are now 4 pretty well-known Republicans, including Congressman Hunter. Are you at all concerned about splitting the vote, and that might benefit Mr. Campa-Najjar, at least in the primary, to move on?
Well, in this district, a Democrat's expected to get about 40%. Campa got close to 50% last time. And so it's going to be important after we go through a robust primary for one Republican to go forward who can clearly strike a difference and engage voters. And a question that hasn't been asked, but it's been out there is, well, you represented a district. How did you do there? Well, the thing about my other district, which we now have a good candidate running for, is in the 2016 election, I got 9% more vote than President Trump, meaning that 9 to 10 out of every people who voted for Hillary Clinton saw it fit on top of that to vote for me. And one of the reasons is that I don't just represent Republicans and conservatives, I represent Americans. I am a conservative, and my voting record indicates that. But it also, you'll find that whether it's Juan Vargas and I going to the Sinai to look at the peril for Israel, or going to the border and standing at the Tijuana River demanding that we do more and that the Mexican government do more to clean it up so it doesn't pollute our beaches, the fact is I'll work across the aisles, and I think that's why when people get through that first round, they're going to vote for me again over a progressive Democrat who I quite frankly don't think understands that you have to represent everybody as I have. Yes, ma'am. glad you separated those two, because there's no question at all that the emphasis on improving our treatment for people that are either mentally ill or, quite frankly, many of our troops that come back with PTSD, which has similar effects, is an important area, and that's medical. And one of the things I championed while I was in Congress was getting, for example, for our veterans, direct access so they wouldn't have to wait in line, sometimes dying before they got treatment at the veterans facilities. We need to do that for everyone who's in mental distress or homeless because of a need for care. I'm going to tell you that there's no one answer that is a solution to homelessness. Up in North County, in Escondido, San Marcos, and so on, we have solutions for change. We also have the Alpha Project. We have a number of groups, but we also have what you see in San Diego, which is an overwhelming number of people on the street. And we're going to need to work federally with funding, but also locally with the kind of caring compassion that doesn't let people stay on the street in disease situations. And so, I look at San Diego Mayor Faulkner and realize that he's been fighting that, and he's been fighting it fairly well to try to get people off the street. So the answer is that working with HUD and other agencies of federal government, Congress needs to work also with programs that work. And I think the short answer to your question is, I will continue to ensure that federal funding goes to programs that work, to cities that are willing to do their part of it, like San Diego, and quite frankly, like El Cajon and other cities that are trying not to become tent cities and cities in which people's individual rights, their home rights, are being intruded on. And all of those, I think, are critical.
You were nominated by the president to a trade position. I was wondering if the delay in the nomination played any part in your decision to run, and also if you communicated with the president's budget.
That's a great question, and I'll repeat it for everyone. I was honored to be nominated by the president for a confirmable position. The Senate delayed me like it has delayed hundreds and hundreds of other people. I believe that had I been in that position and other positions that the president wanted me to do, I might not have been able to focus on this race. But I would like to believe that everything happens in life for a reason, and those reasons are not controlled by man, but by a higher power. And so I'm here today, oddly enough, because Democrats in the Senate have slowed everything down to a crawl, and it became obvious that I could do more for my country. So to answer the second half of your question, after the president was here last week, I flew back with him on the plane. We talked for a short time on the plane. He asked me to come back to the White House. I spent an hour in the Oval with the Vice President, the Secretary of State, and Chief Khomeini, and we talked about what I could do and about this race. And I left there with a clear understanding when I sent a follow-up letter to the president that I would not continue, that I thanked the president, but I felt that Secretary Pompeo absolutely deserved to have people put forward to that committee ahead of the TDA position. And that was part of the consideration, as I'm sitting there with the Secretary of State, and he absolutely positively has a backup of not a few, but like 100 positions that need filled. And so that all went into it. In the discussion with the president, I left with his knowing that I would not be pursuing the TDA, and I came home to prepare for this.
Why this district and not your old district?
Well, first of all, Brian Marriott, I've already endorsed him. He's a good candidate. But I'll be candid. When the district changed, I didn't fit the district. It became a very, very, if you will, moderate district. And although I was able to hold it by, almost 10 out of every 100 people that voted for Hillary Clinton then voted for me, I really wasn't the person that fits it. I've been somebody that's worked with the Freedom Caucus. Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows are people that worked for me in my committee that I helped and that helped me. And, my politics are conservative politics. So sometimes you have to ask, do you fit the district? And the new 49th district with Solana Beach and the University of California, San Diego, really didn't fit my politics. We tried to find somebody who would do better in it. We thought we had it. We now have another candidate, and to be honest,